Stomping down, Shiro's aura exploded into the air as Tier 7 magic circles appeared all around the city, threatening to become Tier 8, but just lacking that last step. Get the F***CK out of here. I can sense that you three are gods. If you don't get out, then you should forget about surviving. Shiro shouted out with pure anger. Her killing intent shot through the roof as the land was transformed into an icy landscape. Both Nine and Iris shuddered in fear as ice started forming on the car window and the temperature. Glancing out of the window, Nine was surprised to see rage on Shiro's face, since she had always seemed to be the composed one. Iris, do you sense anything? Nine asked as he glanced back, only so see Iris unable to speak while her face was pale. Waving her hand, she pulled out several cards and two of them flickered with a glowing light. Whoever she's against will die. All of their paths have just been cut off. No matter what timeline, no matter what choice, their fate has been set in stone. As for the second card, another's fate will begin to change. As for her power, she's someone near the apex of this world. Iris explained as she tried her best to read more fates, but her cards suddenly burst into black flames and disappeared. Shocked at this, Nine quickly summoned one of his blades and deflected the flames. When they touched his sword, he was shocked to see that the metal was being used as fuel and didn't hesitate to throw his sword away to keep both him and Iris safe. Why did the cards burst into flames? They're not normal flames either. Nine frowned while Iris glanced at Shiro. I tried to predict more of her fate. However, I don't know what's happening, but there is now a layer of darkness around her star. She's like a black hole of endless void. Hearing this, Nine furrowed his brows. Thinking about it for a moment, he kicked the car door open and started to escape with Iris so that Shiro didn't need to be worried about catching them in the crossfire. Sensing the two of them jogging to safety, Shiro smiled before looking back towards the direction of the gods with a frown. Follow current novels on lightnovelpub.com. From the city, a single white-haired and pale-skinned woman appeared. Floating in the air, she looked no different a marionette as she dangled on invisible strings. Her eyes hollow and her body barely holding together with the presence of three gods within her body. Seeing this, Shiro felt rage overwhelm her as she slammed her hand forward, ripping a tear in the void, and appeared before the woman. Asterisk bang. Crashing her palm against the woman's chest, red circuits exploded out of Shiro's arm. Get the hell out here. Shiro roared as she pulled her arm back. Tugging tight on the circuits, Shiro watched as the woman's shirt rip apart to show three cards fused to her torso. The flesh around the cards pulsed ever so slightly. Recognizing three sources of divine energy, one on each card, Shiro understood that this was the medium between the gods and the queen who was used as a container. Just as she was about to attack the cards, a Tier 8 magic circle appeared in front of Shiro. Black lightning flickered on the surface as Shiro felt her instincts scream out for her to dodge. But without her own divinity empowering her body, it was going to be difficult. Activating Analysis EX at the last moment, the world slowed down around her as her mind started to turn. She didn't want to unlock her divinity right now since the momentum from the corruption was a bit strong. If she did unlock it, it'll be a bit hard for her to keep it in control. Without Beelzebub helping her and Error being awake, she estimated that her divinity may overwhelm her right now. As the lightning came closer to her eye, Shiro summoned Sylvanes, and the runes on the blade lit up with a neon green glow. Follow new episodes on the lightnovelpub.com platform. Asterisk boom. Pulsing out with an emerald radiance, the lightning was frozen in mid-air, suspended in time, and prevented from reaching Shiro. Since her enemies were gods, Shiro didn't want to dawdle and just end them as quickly as she could. After fighting Rokarn and getting some of her memories back from her like as anima, she knew a few of the tricks that gods have, and ending them quickly in her state was desired. It was both common sense as well as her understanding on their power. Appearing behind the girl, Shiro had Sylvanes in hand and swung towards the neck. But before it could hit, Shiro felt sharp sense of pain shoot through her body. Her spell ended, and the three gods regained their movements once more. Seeing the lightning miss and the traces of divine energy in the air, the girl opened her mouth. So it's the Godslayer. I was wondering why the aura was so strong. I had assumed that you was nothing but another queen or empress, so please forgive my discourtesy. A old voice rang out as a barrier shimmered around the girl's body, redirecting Sylvanes rather than blocking it. Realizing that they knew the properties of her sword, Shiro narrowed her eyes and jumped back. Oh, seems like I'm famous. Shiro forced a smile while staring at the girl. The three auras within her body surged for a moment as three illusionary figures appeared in the air. Their forms flickered delicately as though they're about to disappear at any moment due to the restrictions in this world right now. Of course, we have heard much about your exploits, Godslayer. The system was kind with its compliments. Since you are here, may we buy our pardon with some information? It is our desire to set up a small foundation for the changes coming in 2 days. The old man in the center smiled as Shiro furrowed her brows and dismissed Sylvanis. Speak. Why does the cards hold your aura, and what did you do here? Shiro asked, hearing her tone. One of the gods were unhappy, but after hearing that she had killed Rokarn, they didn't dare to make a wrong move. Despite her level only being 250 right now, they know it's a lie since she was able to kill Rokarn. Visit lightnovel.com for the best novel reading experience. There was a small update to the system. All of the gods were given a set of cards that allow us to insert our crests and converse with mortals without suffering from the backlash. The goal is to find mortals and share our power with them to set up a foundation similar to what the queens do when the New Age first started. The middle god explained as Shiro nodded her head. What happened to the girl then? Shiro asked as they glanced back at the girl they used as a container. She was unable to withstand our presence, and her mind was crushed. Therefore, her body was suitable for the three of us to borrow her body for the time being. As for her followers, they were added bounty for their faith. If the Godslayer wishes to add more mortals to gain some faith, then we are happy to supply you with some. The first god replied as the other two nodded their heads. Hearing this, Shiro glanced at the city and sighed. No need. What faith can I get from such mindless husks? She said as her voice was frigid. Figuring that it was probably because she was unhappy with the offering, the three quickly explained. For you see, while they are indeed mindless husks and the amount of faith they can provide is minimal, their physical bodies can be used as catalysts to reduce the pressure it is on us to materialize on the mortal world in 2 days. While most of the restrictions will be lifted, powerful gods still need sacrifices to materialize. We are no different, though the amount we need are much smaller. As a god born from this world, you will not need to go through this process. I see. Well, you may certainly tell me more when I take your souls, Shiro said as she clutched her hand. Suddenly, 3 sets of circuits materialized, connecting Shiro to each of the gods, widening their eyes. They weren't able to do anything before a wave of black energy shot out from the circuits, enveloping them in darkness. Back in the realm of gods, the 3 paused in their steps and frowned. Furious at Shiro's actions, they wanted to end her, but something changed in their vision. A figure of Shiro appeared, but she was not physically in the divine realm. Instead, it was as though her existence was tied to them. When I kill things, I make sure they're dead for good. For someone of my identity, letting you live is simply an insult. Shiro spoke slowly as they weren't able to do anything about her. Black tendrils crept up their legs and locked them in place. While this was not her original divinity, she could emulate its power ever so lightly through converting their divine energy and using that against them. Looking at the 3 cores that appeared before her, Shiro clenched her fist and shattered them in one go. While they were called gods, they were only minor gods. Weaklings in her eyes, dusting her hands, Shiro glanced back at the city with a sad look in her eyes. Without the gods controlling them, all of them stood in place, not doing anything else. Closing her eyes, she activated error and could see that a vital part of their current code was missing. Normally, she would keep them alive and try to find a way to fix it, but from her knowledge as anima, their state can only be healed through reincarnation. The code was malformed and damaged. Only through reincarnation can it be broken down and healed. Aiming her palm at the city, she furrowed her brows before sighing. Dropping her arm, she decided to give it another try. If she was still anima, she would have given up and killed them regardless so that they could reincarnate. As the firstborn of destruction, that was part of her job, to send people to the void so that they could live their next life. However, that was not Shiro. Her experiences leading up to now did not allow her to just give up and kill a city of innocents. Shaking her head, Shiro clasped her hands together. Sorry, error. I know you're resting, but I might have to go a little overboard today. Shiro apologized as a pulse of red light erupted from her body, covering the entirety of the city. Everyone that was touched by the light seemed to shimmer for a moment before an orb lit up on their chest. Naturally, the same happened to Iris and Nine. While Nine was confused, Iris somewhat understood what was going on since fate was tied to the source code. While she may not know the existence of the source code, She could feel the shift in fate for everyone in the city. Meanwhile, Shiro activated Analysis EX and observed their broken codes. I just need to simulate the process of reincarnation while preserving their current memories. Actually, perhaps it's better to wipe out a little of what happened. After all, being enslaved to gods may cause them to do something out of their level. If they pass the threshold, they'll receive a portion of my blessing and become fallen. Shiro muttered. She wanted them to have a fresh start in a way. This content is taken from lightnovelpub.com. Perhaps give them the memory of being dead but revived after discovering their souls. That should allow me to send them to Asharia without any problems. If they're left to wander without protection, a lot of them will die again. Furrowing her brows, Shiro raised her hand and red circuits shot out, gathering all of the source codes in front of her. Since her perception has been boosted, she's able to act fast, but the time she was allowed to act was short since she was pushing error a bit too hard right now. Taking a deep breath, she clenched her hand and shattered all of the source codes, essentially killing everyone in the city. Her human kill count shot up in an instant, and her title was upgraded, but Shiro wasn't bothered by that. The moment she reconstructed the source codes, her title will degrade back to what it was. After all, the way the title kept track was through the mark you left on their code. When you kill them properly, it'll mark you down as the killer, thus increasing your score by 1. But since she was reincarnating them, she wasn't technically killing them, as she was the one granting them new life. Instead of being marked down as a killer in their code, she'll be marked down as something else entirely. However, simulating the process of reincarnation is easier said than done. I am the firstborn of destruction, the essence of death and the primordial force that conquers all. With mind power, I shall send you to the void and rid you for your life. With mind blessing, you will be reborn free of your past burdens. Shiro shouted out. Those that heard her now would be unfamiliar with the language she was using, as it was one that belonged only to chaos and the first gods born of her power. 9 pillars of light shot out around Shiro as they started to surround the city. Each pillar formed its own magic circle, as Shiro could see parts of her body threatening to crumble from the stress. However, this was okay since she was merely simulating the spell. The real one was much more powerful, while this one had a limit. Tier 9 Origin Magic. Circle of Transmigration. Asterisk, boom. Piercing through the clouds, the 9 magic circles linked together to form a gate. A swirl of energy erupted from the gate as all of the source codes faded into the void before Shiro forcefully ended the skill. With the skill cut off, the gate disappeared and the source code was spat back out. However, since they passed the gates of transmigration, their code had already been repaired. When they were spat back out, it was as though the damage the 3 gods did to them never existed at all. Origin Magic. Force Transmigration of the Soul. Changing the spell, Shiro quickly edited the source code to remove certain memories before releasing her grip and allowed them to drift back to the owner's body. Feeling Error's power grow weak, Shiro smiled apologetically before floating down to the ground and panted heavily from her use of mana. To forcefully activate a Tier 9 magic while her own divinity was sealed on top of using a portion of her divinity was not kind to her. If not for the fact that Error was helping her directly interact with the code without her asking the system, it would have never worked. Follow new episodes on the lightnovelpub.com platform. In front of her, Shiro could see a figure appear with a stern expression. Glancing up, Shiro was pleasantly surprised to see a familiar face. Admin 4. I didn't think you would pay me a visit. Shiro smiled. Pausing in his steps, Admin 4 blinked his eyes in surprise. How do you know me? If I'm not wrong, mortals, even someone as abnormal as you, should not know the existence of administrators. Where did you learn such information? Or did you learn of us through interacting with the system? Admin 4 asked as Shiro's smile froze. Furrowing her brows, Shiro wanted to glance at his source code, but was unable to since Error couldn't be activated right now. However, while he may look like Admin 4, his aura and attitude was completely different. While setting that aside, I'm here to check something. Admin 4 shook his head as he approached Shiro. Before she could react, he tapped her on the head and several holographic panels appeared before him. Glancing through it, he muttered to himself a few times. It's no wonder. I thought it was strange that you can activate such an abnormal spell, Admin 4 said as he started at Shiro. Thinking about it for a moment, he took his spare hand out of his pocket. The power balance is hindered. The system has given you too many benefits. Even for someone of your identity, this cannot be dash. If you carry on your idea of punishment, the system will not be kind. You know the system does things for a reason, Step down, old friend. A voice rang out as another figure tapped Admin 4 on the shoulder. Visit lightnovel.com for a better experience. Go back for now. I've been assigned to her for the foreseeable future. Admin 8 sighed as Admin 4 frowned, but nodded his head. Glancing back at Shiro, he disappeared. Shaking his head, Admin 8 looked at Shiro. I'll present you with your reward for using such a powerful spell. It's information rather than an item, and it may help you with what you're trying to accomplish. Admin 8 smiled before turning serious. North Pole. Egg. Be there when it hatches. After saying what he needed to say, Admin 8 turned around and prepared to walk away, but Shiro stopped him. What happened to Admin 4? Forced reset. Admin 8's response was quick as he disappeared. Hearing this, Shiro frowned and guessed that it was probably because he helped her out a little too much. She was wondering why he was dressed so formally during their last video call. It turned out that he was being reset. Taking a deep breath, Shiro sighed. Once she improved her balance between creation and destruction, she should be able to interact with the admins more and perhaps help Admin regain his previous self. It's just a matter of getting to that stage. Shiro muttered. After forcefully invoking the power of a Tier 9 spell, her level had increased slightly due to her improved control over creation. Reaching level 350, Shiro's class stayed the same, but there was now a new skill. Code Surgeon, passive, a skill that improved her control and access to a person's source code. It was what she needed right now to speed up her progress. Plus, with Error out of commission for a bit, this was going to suffice. Walking through a sandy world, a hooded woman paused in her footsteps. Behind her, there was a giant dragon with a party of people on its back. Is something wrong, Lyrica? Voldrin asked as everyone got off his back. Transforming back to his human form, he pulled out his own cloak and put it on. Nothing much. I just felt a surge of mana to the west. You mentioned that the beyond was an overlap of the real world, right? Only that this one is closer to mana. Lyrica smiled as Voldrin nodded his head. Yes, is something wrong with that? Voldrin asked as Lyrica shook her head. Nothing is wrong with it, but something interesting did happen. Can you teleport us to the west? I'll give you the coordinates now. Lyrica smiled as Voldrin was confused but nodded his head. Receiving the coordinates from Lyrica, a Tier 7 magic circle expanded out from Voldrin's feet as everyone was swept away by the spell. Arriving at the coordinates, Voldrin felt his mind getting overwhelmed by a mix of fear and awe. Quickly jumping back, he transformed into his dragon form and glared at the view in front of him. For the first time in his life, he transformed out of fear. Earlier, he couldn't sense the power, but now that he was this close, he could sense everything. The aura of a Tier 9 being. My mother has told me about such beings before. I thought that they had died out long ago. Voldrin growled as the scales on his body trembled at the aura he was sensing. What's a Tier 9 being? Asher asked out of curiosity. Tier 7 beings are demigods, entities that had tapped into the power of the divine. Tier 8 beings are gods. They get stronger with their followers' beliefs and have mastered the use of divine energy. There are, of course, different stages of power within this. My mother was a divine rank 2 being, which means she is on the same level as popular gods that you know, such as Zeus or Odin. While she wasn't sure how high the divine ranks goes, she told me about a whole new class of being. The Tier 9 beings, also known as the firstborn. Demigods. Gods and such can be created through belief, but that's not the case for firstborns. They are the second closest thing to the start of everything. They are what some would call the god of gods. I don't know how many firstborns there are, but if you meet a hostile one, you would die before you can even blink. Voldrin explained while Lyrica made her way towards the center. In front of her, the world seemed as though it had been ripped apart. There was 9 tears in space. Each one seemed to reveal a new realm to Lyrica. Follow current novels on lightnovel.com. However, while others may just see them as rips in space, Lyrica could sense something more. After being in the beyond, her senses have already been heightened to their limit. From tears, she could sense something more, something primal. Walking towards the tears, a green aura exploded from her body and morphed into a protective cover. Asterisk bang. Boom. Invisible flickers of energy struck out towards her as the protective cover flickered and eventually dimmed. However, Lyrica wasn't bothered. There was something calling to her from within the ripple of energy, and if it allowed her to become Shiro's sword and act as her vanguard, then Lyrica would push on. Grabbing her sword, she closed her eyes and stomped down. Asterisk, boom. A sharp aura exploded out from her body as her own throne world rippled out, anchoring itself in the realm of the beyond and contested against the ripples of energy. Thousands of swords appeared in an array around her and shot out while she plunged her hand into her chest and pulled out a light blue orb, shattering it. All of her swords lit up with a green and blue energy as her form also changed. Crouching down, she dashed forward and cut down the ripples of invisible energy that sought to take her life. Furrowing her brows, Lyrica could see her swords getting disintegrated upon contact. Realizing this, she hid her current sword and replaced it with one from her throne world. Passing the first rip in space, Lyrica was hit by a wave of energy that shattered the protective cover around her. Dashing past the second, she could feel her body crumbling away, but strangely, there was no warning of danger in her heart. In fact, her body almost welcomed it. Follow current novels on lightnovelpub.com. Life After Death, Creation After Destruction. The energy in this array reminds me of Shiro, but it is embedded with a chaotic force that disintegrates anything it touches. However, there's a ray of light after that destruction. Birth, life, death, rebirth. Lyrica thought to herself as she rushed past the third tear in space. The energy that rippled out from the tear immediately shattered her body to pieces, shocking everyone who was there. However, from the destruction, a ray of green and blue light pierced through the blood mist and coagulated into a form of a sword. Morphing its own shape, they could faintly see the figure of an elven woman slammed her hand down. Green energy exploded around her and created a barrier around her. With a barrier around her body, Lyrica dashed towards the fourth. The fourth shattered the barrier, the fifth fractured the illusionary blade, the sixth broke it to pieces before being reforged. The seventh granted her blade a deadly luster that cut apart anything it came into contact with. The eighth shattered her blade once more. Now that she was nothing but a faint wisp of energy, Lyrica approached the ninth tear. During the whole process, she finally understood why she felt no fear. While it destroyed her body, it tempered her soul through the primal forces of destruction, and from that destruction her soul grew stronger. Life After Death, Creation After Destruction. Standing before the final tear in space, Lyrica could see the flickering visages of Shiro unleashing the spell onto the world. Curling her lips into a smile, Lyrica reached out and caressed the vision. "I'll be there soon," Lyrica muttered before walking past the tear. Unlike the previous tears, this one did not shatter her body. Instead, it shattered itself to piece and started to infuse Lyrica's soul with power. Little by little, the light started to peel off Lyrica's body, revealing her new physique. Waving her finger, Lyrica got dressed and glanced at Rip in space that reflected her appearance. She now looked a little older with green and blue hair that shimmered with every movement. Her eyes had changed as her iris now resembled the wheel of Samsara. Lyrica LVL 990 Empress of Samsara. The Beyond is not just a realm that's closer to Mana. It's a realm that connects everything together. It's the crossroad to each of the realms in the world, and it is also the guiding light for me to find hell and heaven. Lyrica muttered as she understood the energy within this realm. This content is taken from lightnovelpub.com. Reaching out with her hand, she sliced down. Asterisk, boom. Immediately, the world in front of her split in two as the two have slowly transformed into portals. The one on the right poured out with divine energy, while the one on the left radiated demonic. Narrowing her eyes, Lyrica thought about entering the right portal when her footsteps paused. Teleporting back to her party, she did a circle gesture with her finger, and a barrier appeared around everyone. The moment the barrier appeared, a giant portal appeared in the sky as 10 royal guards of the Beyond poured out. Their aura blasted out as Vuldrin could still feel their power. If not for Lyrica's barrier, it may have just killed them if they were too weak. Within the center of the royal guards, a single person stood. She had dark red hair and golden pupils. Runic patterns could be seen on her arms as she wore a sleeveless white and gold dress. I wonder what has brought the realm ruler to a place like this. I do hope that I haven't caused you any trouble. Lyrica smiled as she could see the name tag of the person in front of her. Yuri LVL 1000 Realm Ruler of the Beyond, Divinity Rank 2. Looking at Lyrica, Yuri narrowed her eyes before looking towards the tiers in space that she had created. I can accept you walking around my realm. However, if you open such portals without care, I will have to banish you. Yuri warned as Lyrica grinned and shrugged her shoulder. No harm, no foul. Staying silent, Yuri nodded her head before aiming her palm at the tears in space. Clenching her fist, the mana in the realm surged and immediately repaired the damage. giving Lyrica another glance. She turned around and left with her guards. Dropping the barrier, Lyrica stretched her body. There was a smile on her face as this was a big step towards her goal. All that's left is to consolidate her power and touch the realm of divinity. With the admin leaving, Shiro massaged her body and stood up. Forcing the power on the scale of Tier 9 through her body right now was really not the best thing to do, though it paid off since it gave her some insights on creation. If it was not for the fact that she had already made some progress in creation along with error being there for her, she wouldn't have been able to invoke a Tier 9 magic like Circle of Transmigration. After all of her spells as anima had been pure destruction spells. Similar to her Een-style Azura's Path, she used a specific set of spells from when she was the firstborn of destruction. She put all of her spells under the category called the 7 Gates of Destruction. Thinking about her original spell set, Shiro glanced down at her hands and shook her head. With her power right now, she couldn't even unleash the full power of the first Gate of Destruction, never mind the other 6. Though even if she was able to, she wouldn't use it since it would tip the balance of her divinity to the destruction side too much. Dismissing the energy that was gathering around her hand, Shiro walked towards where 9 and Iris were. As she was walking, Shiro felt a pain shoot through her body, causing her to kneel down for a moment. Blood started to pour from her eye as she quickly healed herself. I suppose I did exert myself just a little, Shiro muttered. Boom. Follow current novels on lightnovelpub.com. Behind her, where she had cast her spell, she noticed a fluctuation of power from another realm. Widening her eyes, she quickly swept her senses towards the direction and knew that someone was trying to tap into her strength as the firstborn of destruction. Furrowing her brows, Shiro stood up with a serious face. Taking a deep breath, she activated the Argus system and clasped her hands together. Argus Blessing allowed her to see anything she locked onto with hardly anything being able to block her sight, even if they were in a different realm. Tier 6 magic circles appeared around her as her view flickered to reveal Lyrica walking through the tears in space within the world of the beyond. Widening her eyes in a mixture of surprise and relief, Shiro also noticed how she was determined to walk forward. Even without her doing anything, Lyrica pressed on, shattering her mortal shell using the power of the Tier 9 magic circle. Furrowing her brows, Shiro wanted to lecture Lyrica about being reckless, but considering what she just did, she couldn't say anything. Thinking about it, Shiro decided to help out. Lyrica went to another realm in search of power. The fact that her aura is a bit weaker than an empress can't be denied, which means she probably hasn't found what she wanted yet. Even though there is a limit to what I can do, I can help temper her body to get used to the power close to that of a firstborn. Shiro muttered as mana threads appeared on her hands. Taking a deep breath, her eyes focused. This was most likely going to be the last time she helps Lyrica for a while, since they both have things they need to do. Now that their fates have crossed once more, she'll push her power once more. Even if she was on her last leg, her friend was risking her life. The least she could do was help her so that she could walk without worry. Sensing 9 and Iris approach, Shiro opened her mouth. I need to sort out something right now. Iris, if you can help me suppress my injuries, it'll be a great help. 9. Set up a parameter where we can be relatively safe, Shiro ordered as 9 nodded his head. Grabbing his swords, he threw them into the air and had them stab into the ground in specific patterns, forming a barrier around everyone with him in the center. The source of this content is lightnovelpub.com. As for Iris, she clapped her hands together and a deck of cards appeared between her palms. After studying the star chart that Shiro had helped her obtain last time, her collection had increased by quite a bit. 3 of the cards started to glow as she drew them all in one swift movement and threw it into the air, shattering to specks of light that flowed into Shiro's body. Iris activated another spell as a star chart could now be seen in the sky. Feeling a wave of relaxing energy soothe her wounds, Shiro realized a big change. All of Iris' buffs were percentile. Even for Sylvia, there were only a few that were percentile. While her usual healing spells are ridiculous and hard to outclass, it meant that Iris could still be helping to people who are level 1000 despite being low level herself. She could cover for Sylvia should there be the need to. Thinking about this, Shiro started to wonder about how strong Iris could get with her class. But that was a fleeting thought since the importance was Lyrica right now. With Iris and 9 helping her, Shiro started to manipulate the energy left behind by her spell to invoke the power of rebirth so that it may refine Lyrica's body and soul. controlling the powers carefully so that it wasn't too much for Lyrica. Shiro could feel her body reaching its limit, but there was still the final step to go. Taking a deep breath, Shiro reignited the power of destruction within herself only to then flood it with the little amounts of creation she had obtained. Immediately withdrawing her destruction, the void caused by this amplified the power of creation slightly, and it flowed into Lyrica, forcefully changing her class and granted her taste of a firstborn's power. The moment this was done, Shiro's spell collapsed as she could feel the backlash rush through her body, draining all of her mana in one go and damaged her body heavily. After all, she had just invoked a simulation of a Tier 9's power twice in quick succession. It was no wonder that she would be suffering the consequences. Shocked by the backlash, Iris tried to heal Shiro as much as she could. Taking long, deep breaths, Shiro watched as Lyrica's transformation was successful and smiled. With her goal reached, she relaxed her body. Feeling a gaze on her, Shiro tracked the gaze and realized it came from the realm ruler. Opening her mouth, Shiro used the power of Argus to send a message. I do apologize about the small problem I may have caused to your realm. However, it has allowed my friend to gain a newfound power. Therefore, I am grateful for the benefits that your domain has brought to her. So, if you were to require any help in the future, so long as it does not breach my code of conduct, I will try my best to assist you. You have my word as the nanotech goddess of destruction, Shiro said as she released her aura, allowing the realm ruler to sense her power. Follow current novels on lightnovelpub.com. Her response was simple. I understand. I shall look forward to seeing you in the future. Lifeline. The moment she finished her sentence, the connection was cut off as Shiro blinked her eyes in surprise. The fact that the realm ruler knew of her identity as the lifeline of this world was surprise, since the system would prevent people from discovering that. The fact that she knew must mean that she has a unique privilege with the system. With the communications cut off, Shiro relaxed her body and glanced back at the two. Iris was drenched with sweat, while continuously trying to keep Shiro's body in shape, while Nine was on guard about even the smallest movement around them. You two can stop now. I've finished what I needed to do. Plus, I think we have a few guests that are curious about our identity. Shiro smiled, sensing people approaching from the distance. Hearing this, Iris and Nine nodded. Waving his hand, he deactivated his barrier but didn't remove the swords so that it could be reactivated at a moment's notice. Waiting for a moment, they watched as the residents of the city approached the three of them. Standing in the front, a man could be seen with a white hooded jacket. Red marking could be seen on the surface, but it was faint, almost as though it didn't exist, but to Shiro's eyes, it was clear as day. Pulling down his hood, he revealed himself to be a middle-aged man with dark midnight hair and pure white eyes. Excuse me, do you happen to know where our queen is? We have recently woken up with strange memories in our minds, as the aura around you suggests that you are far from the common person. I do believe that there is a good chance that you have some answers. The man bowed slightly, while the others stayed silent out of respect for him. Sabbath LVL 780? Well, if you were to explain who you are and what kind of person your queen was, I might have something of use. Shiro smiled as she narrowed her eyes. Despite only being level 780, the faint aura around him told Shiro that he was stronger than most queens out there. It didn't help that his class was hidden too, so she didn't know what kind of fighter he was. Furrowing his brows slightly, Sabbath was silent for a moment before opening his mouth. Very well, perhaps it may be better for you to come to the city to see for yourselves. She was someone who went to the extremes for her idea of what was needed to survive. It may be hard to see, but I can guarantee that she did it out of the good of her heart, even if it was morally questionable. Sabbath sighed as he decided to not hide anything. Raising his hands, he snapped his fingers and released a powerful aura. On the command of Rank 1, all of you stand attention, Sabbath shouted out as every citizen that followed behind him lost their meek demeanor. Each of them released a powerful aura that resembled a blade as their eyes turned cold. Standing attention, they parted in the middle and kneeled on the ground. Raising an eyebrow at this, Shiro glanced at Sabbath. This was different to what the gods did, so she didn't mind it too much, though it was just shy of mind control. If anything, it was something similar to students in school listening to the teacher, since they know that is the natural order of things. If you will, we will show you what kind of person our queen is with the facilities she's built. I will also explain her history to the best of my knowledge. While the city has changed quite a bit, we are still rather familiar with where things are, Sabbath said as Shiro glanced at both Nine and Iris, who was a little surprised by the actions of the citizens, but said nothing. Well, I suppose it doesn't hurt to have a little look. Just as she was about to stand up, Sabbath opened his mouth. Would you like some medicine? With your body being in its current state, I don't think it's wise to force yourself to look okay. With my eyes, I can see that you were about to force your muscles so that you could move properly, Sabbath said as he pointed towards his pure white eyes. Oh, seems like your eyes are rather special. I suppose you're revealing it to me since you believe that you can kill me whenever with my current body state. Shiro chuckled as she slammed her hand down. A wave of mana pushed her body upright before forming strings that controlled her own body like a puppet. Adjusting her control, Shiro walked forwards as though nothing was wrong, while also making sure that her body wasn't being pushed to the limit again. Hearing what she said, Sabbath smiled and shook his head. That's not the case. Even though you are only level 350, the fear and danger I feel from you is very much real. Even with your body in this state, I doubt I can kill you even if I was to risk my everything. The reason I'm telling you this is that I already have a small idea of what might have happened. Plus, I sense an aura in you that is similar to the one I serve. You are also a queen, are you not? Well, most likely something a lot stronger. I'm being truthful in case my dishonesty kills everyone here. Sabbath chuckled while walking forwards. Fair enough. You have quite the sharp intuition then. Though I do wonder what your class is for it to be 3 question marks. Shiro asked with a smile. It's nothing special. It used to be a bad thing, but it helps me make my opponents cautious. You see, I don't have a class. For some reason, I was incapable of accepting any class despite fulfilling the conditions. I have 0 skills from a class, 0 passives, 0 titles, 0 bonuses, while still being able to use parts of the system like the inventory. The only skills I have been able to somewhat get are skills from skill stones, but they are far limited compared to what I'll get from a class. Though I've learned that the system is merely a support that helps you find your way through the world. While I do not have skills written on my page to show my power, my knowledge and understanding of what I can do along with my control of mana allows me to perform just as well, if not better than most people. Sabbath explained while controlling some mana in his palm. No class. You don't have a class. Shiro blinked her eyes in surprise since that is usually impossible with how the system was laid out, but she couldn't sense any falsehood from him. His soul, while slightly gray, is still on the good side. This man was telling the truth and being genuine about his current condition. Indeed, though it is a bit hard for me to prove to you. He smiled helplessly. It's fine. I have a way to check, but not right now. Shiro waved her hand dismissively while thinking about what this could mean. So, care to tell me a little about your queen's power? Very well. My queen, Yasali, had the title Queen of Assassins. She may not be as powerful as other queens who govern better concepts, but she could hold her own, granted that she was the one to make the first move. When she helped all of us, she didn't just do it so that she may gain a boost to her own stats, but rather give us a way to survive. Sabbath said as he looked up at the sky and sighed. She knew that her chances of winning was 0, but just because it was 0, it didn't mean that she was willing to die without doing anything. She decided to use what little of her time in this world to help lost people like us. You may be familiar with the line, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Rather than protecting us for a moment, she decided to teach us how to hold our own, how to kill those stronger than us. She gave us a path that allowed us to survive these turbulent times. The training was hard. Many died, but people could quit whenever they wanted. Those that committed to the training are ones who wanted to take some form of control back into their lives, so that they wouldn't be killed without doing anything. Sabbath explained before looking at the citizens that followed behind him. Opening his mouth, he called out to them once more. What is our priority? To survive through any means. To grant safety to this family. If someone strong tries to kill us, drag them to hell so that they can't kill the others. Hearing every citizen shout this in unison, Shiro was rather impressed. Thinking back to what happened to their queen, she couldn't help but shake her head. If not for the fact that she had accepted a card, they could have met and Shiro could have given them a safer place to stay. But what's done is done. Even with her power, Yasali's code had already shattered. Piecing her back together was impossible. All that was left was her broken body, which the 3 gods used for their own gains along with her followers. However, if they were willing to go to safety with her, Shiro wouldn't deny them. Plus, she wasn't as worried about their safety as she was before, since Sabbath had mentioned that Yasali taught them how to survive through being assassins. Arriving at the city, Shiro could see that most of the facilities that Yasali had created were torn down to be replaced with statues of the gods. Stomping down, Sabbath revealed a path underground and made his way down. When Her Highness trained us, she made sure that we understood the importance of one another. Many would say that assassins need no emotions as they are hidden daggers in the dark, a tool for killing, but she thought otherwise. While emotions may hinder some operations, it is also emotions that save you when you are in danger in the form of allies that'll stick their necks out for you. We willingly allowed her to help us cultivate a second side to us, the flip side of the coin that becomes an assassin to survive. Some may see it as mind-washing, but we see it as a gift. Sabbath explained while showing Shiro the training facility. Seeing all of the apparatus that was used, Shiro could tell that training was harsh, perhaps more so than her own training that she imposed on the mech pilots. Is there anything else you would want to know about my queen? If not, then it would be greatly appreciated if you told us what happened to her and the truth behind our supposed deaths. Sabbath asked as Shiro glanced at him and nodded her head. Let's speak elsewhere. Not exactly the best place to talk about this stuff, Shiro said as she gestured towards the machines used for their training. Nodding his head, Sabbath led the way out and had some of the people make a table for them to sit around. Taking a seat, Shiro crossed her legs and tapped her finger on the table. You know about gods, right? Shiro asked as Sabbath nodded his head. Yes, while we may only read about them in mythologies and folklore, they are very much real, though they haven't been very active. However, there have been some changes, and apparently the gods cannot stay passive for long. That's the last thing I remember my queen telling me. Perhaps it's as I feared. Did the gods interfere and take her life? Sabbath asked as he glanced down and clenched his hands. Amen, you're correct. When I arrived at the city, I sensed the presence of gods. As for your queen, she was nothing but a puppet when I arrived. Her soul has been crushed, and her body was used to house 3 gods. Your situation was a little better, but still not great. Shiro shook her head, explaining to them slowly about their situation and what the gods used them for. Shiro could sense sadness wash over everyone that was listening, but they controlled themselves to the best of their abilities. Hearing about how his queen was used as nothing but a container, killing intent exploded out of Sabbath, but it was soon replaced with sorrow as he nodded his head. Leaning back, Sabbath glanced up at the sky and sighed. Closing his eyes, he gave his prayers to his queen in silence before opening his eyes. Thank you for telling me everything. Is there anything you need help with? If not, then I wish to go make a grave for my queen and repair the buildings here, Sabbath said as Shiro shook his head. If you need a place to stay, then I can offer you a place. It won't be free, but the rent will be paid through labor. It'll be safe for the ones that don't want to fight, as there are civilian jobs for them. While the gods won't come back, there's no guarantee that another one won't come, so you might want to change locations just in case. Shiro offered as Sabbath glanced at her and thought about it for a moment. After staying silent, Sabbath looked at the city and let out a resigned sigh. I suppose you are right. Though if you wish for us to treat you as our new queen, I'm afraid that's a little. Trailing off, Sabbath didn't want to say what he was thinking, but Shiro knew that he and everyone else under Yasali would feel awkward about it. It's fine. You don't have to. When you go to the city, you can be your own company of people. If it is difficult, I'll even... Actually, I don't think I can make a new island for you right now, but I can clear a district so that you and your people can stay with one another. There is already an assassin guild in the city, so you can either join them or work as an independent faction, whichever is easiest for you. I know this sounds too good to be true, but I do wish that I can help more people. What use is it to win the new age only for there to be no one left? I'll save as many people as I can. Shiro smiled as Sabbath nodded his head with gratitude in his eyes. Then I thank you. We wish to stay as an independent company for now. I hope that you don't take offense to this, but while we are not your subordinates and will not serve as we would to Yasali, we will still offer our all if it means to secure a home for this family. Sabbath bowed as Shiro chuckled. That's all I ask. I never did ask you to serve me, only for you to do your part. Shiro chuckled as Sabbath paused and realized that this was indeed the case. In that case, then I would have to trouble you to lead the way once we finish making her grave. What we need are already in our inventories. As for everything else, we'll leave them here. If anyone was to find something useful to them when they pass this city, let them have it, Sabbath said as Shiro nodded her head. Letting them make a grave for Yasali, Shiro relaxed on the side and started to read a book that she had kept in her inventory. Now that she no longer had her database, she found it rather fun to just sit down and read a book under the sun. Glancing at Nine and Iris, who were looking towards the city, Shiro chuckled. You two seem like you want to say something. Why not take a seat and talk about it? It'll feel better to let it out than to keep it bottled inside, Shiro said as Nine nodded his head and sat down while Iris did the same. It's nothing much, just that seeing the training facilities reminded me a little of where we're from. 9 chuckled while glancing at his swords. You never did tell me about that. Care to share your history? If not, it's fine too. I'm not one to privy on your background if you don't want to share it. Though that's only if you're friendly. If you're an enemy of mine, I would have directly searched your soul for the knowledge I want. Shiro joked as 9 understood that she was serious. Ignoring that for now, he thought about how to explain it. Should I explain? Iris asked with a smile. No, it's fine. 9 shook his head. Me and Iris are experimental people, I suppose. Neither of us have proper parents. We were created in a lab and brought up through a carefully tailored environment. The reason why I'm called 9 is because I'm from bath number 9 and Iris is called well. Iris is because she's part of the batch that had their eyes experimented on. 9 explained as Shiro paused. Her smile disappeared and her aura became frosty. My actual name, or rather tag, is 9-015. Subject 15 in batch 9, while Iris is Iris 001. Subject 1 in the Iris experiment. 9 explained while glancing at Iris, who had no reaction. The goal was to see if there was a way for people to surpass level 500 to reach tier 6, and well, they've certainly come close. Before the experiment could fully succeed, the new age began and a portal opened up in the facility. We managed to take advantage of the situation to escape with a few weapons, but the people who run the labs also managed to escape. We don't have tracking chips on us, but they have their ways to find us. For my batch, the goal was to use part of Chinese mythology regarding the environment and connection to the spurt. I have a unique attunement to the land, and my swords are unable to be stored away due to this connection. Once I enchant the swords, they act as formation markers and allows me to set up powerful arrays. As for Iris, they wanted to see if they could harness the power of stars and eyes that see through the fabrics of reality. Unfortunately, it was a failure, and it transformed into a mutation that refines her senses to mana instead, though this helped with her sensing the star chart for more spells. 9 spoke slowly while rubbing his finger against the back of his hand. I can go into detail from within the labs, but I doubt you'll want to hear that, so I'll keep it short. My current goal is to get stronger and kill whoever created us, and want to make more. Iris is just helping me on my journey. 9 chuckled as Iris shrugged. Well, I can't deny that I also want revenge, though it may not be high on that list. Iris admitted as Shiro nodded her head. Well, the same offer goes to you. You can go to the city and develop yourselves to become stronger. If you find a lead to whoever did this to you, you can just tell me, and I'll lend you all the firepower you need. If you want to end things with your own hands, then I can help you clear a path instead, Shiro said as the two smiled. Thank you, but we've put that on hold for now, Iris said as Shiro raised an eyebrow in surprise. It's mainly because I did a small divination. Our fates are now linked to yours. Had it not been for your help, our journey would have ended with that dragon. Following the path of my fate, I know that if I follow you, I'll eventually come across the people that did this to us, and end them in the future, so we're not in a rush. Iris reassured as Shiro nodded her head after a short pause. Well, if you ever want to start your revenge, just tell me. I'll give you a hand if you need. Shiro reminded before glancing towards Sabbath, who was making his way over to them. Everything has been done. We can leave whenever you want. Sabbath smiled as Shiro nodded her head. Oh, I never said I'll be joining you on this journey. I'll give you a tracker for you to get to the city, and when you arrive, just tell them that you're here with my recommendation. Tell them what I told you, and they'll accommodate you accordingly. Of course, this is me trusting that you won't over-exaggerate the benefits, haha. Shiro joked, as there have been a few people that tried their luck with this. Of course, none were successful. I wouldn't dare. You're already extending a helping hand to us after everything that has happened. Plus, you've even resurrected us and gave us a second chance. I would need to be stupid to bite the hand that fed me. While I cannot serve you like I did to my queen, I will not betray you for all the help that you have given us. Sabbath kneeled as Shiro nodded her head. Amen. Take this. It's embedded with parts of my aura, so no monsters should approach you. This was made before I adjusted my class. Shiro smiled, throwing him an orb. The moment she pulled out the orb, Sabbath could feel a spine-chilling killing intent acting as a ward within the orb. Even though he had heard about what happened when she killed gods, sensing her killing intent was a lot different to hearing about it. Catching the orb, he could feel his muscles tense up and lock into place. It took him a moment to adjust himself, but at that point, Shiro had adjusted it so that it excluded them as the target for this intent. Instructing him on how to use this orb as a key, Shiro watched as they left the city and started to venture towards Asharia. Well, that's a sign for us to leave as well, Shiro said, standing up. What's our next destination? Iris asked curiously. The North Pole. We'll be traveling a little slower for you to kill some monsters and level up on the way. Though I will say that I sense something on the edge of my sensory range. It's rather familiar, and if I know who it belongs to. I did promise a friend to help her out. Shiro smiled as she remembered what she told Niphim, the Empress she froze in time using her skill Avrin. She promised that she'll try to help Arnia while thinking of a way to cure her fallen status. After all, the little sister would feel heartbroken should she be left alone by the big sis. It might get a little dangerous, but at the same time it could be a good training moment for you too. While you are underleveled, I can guarantee your safety, and it'll help you get used to fighting high-level beings. Her aura is a little chaotic, so I can assume that she's lacking a bit of control right now. Shiro added as they made their way towards the north where Shiro had sensed the aura. ####. Shivering slightly, Arnia grabbed the rags that covered her body. The blood had long dried up, making the fabric uncomfortable, but it was a reminder of what she had done. Her rampages, her lust for food, and everything she killed. All the people, the monsters, dead by her hand, and consumed to satiate her hunger. She could remember fragmented memories from before. A strange time where she was fighting with others. She wasn't rampaging like she was now. She was more in control. She could remember a red-haired lady that was related to dragons. Someone who could cause her to back off due to worries of her power. Then there was this white-haired lady. Someone who had constantly interfered with her. Someone her previous self wanted to kill badly, but was never able to. With the fragmented memories and emotions assaulting her mind, she felt lost. Suddenly, she felt a pair of eyes lock onto her from afar. A familiar glare that sent chills down her spine. The aura behind that glare dwarfed her own, and even in her state where she could start rampaging whenever to satiate her hunger, it told her to run. Immediately transforming her body into something that was suited to speed, Arnia ran away. She was no longer in control. She was a passenger of her own body. I was thinking that you would have fought me the moment I let you sense me, but it seems like you want to run instead. Can't say that I'm a little disappointed, but I certainly didn't think you were someone to focus on escaping. A voice rang out from behind her as Arnia looked back slowly. Seeing the white hair flutter in the wind and the red eyes stare at her, Arnia could feel fear strangle her, stopping her from speaking. Noticing this fear and slight traces of unfamiliarity within Arnia, Shiro wondered why that was so. She knew this was Arnia, the Chimera Empress that wanted to kill her on so many occasions. But these eyes did not belong to the Arnia she knew. They belonged to a scared girl who was being forced to do something she hated. It was the eyes of pure fear and confusion. Staying silent, Shiro looked at her mutated body and saw something different. There was an aura hiding within Arnia, something fragmented and weak, something that feared her with every part of its being. Oh, I see. That certainly explains a few things. Arnia, do you mind if I toy around with whatever is controlling your body right now? Shiro asked as Arnia was confused by her question. Oh, don't worry. It's just that I'm a little familiar, and it would be such a waste not to use him in this situation. I have 2 friends who need training, you see. As much as I would like to free you right now, it's not often I get a chance like this. Oh, also, I'm not going to kill you or torture you. I'm here to help at the behest of your big sis Niphim. She's safe right now, and her request was for me to look after you despite what may have happened before. Shiro smiled softly as she patted Arnia's head. Seeing Shiro's warm smile and her feeling her soft hand upon her head, Arnia could feel herself calm down a little, but was still worried. She knew what her mutated body could do, and she was worried that it had harmed Shiro. But most importantly, this was someone who could point her towards the direction of her big sister. She couldn't allow this chance to slip by. Again, I'll need to apologize for using you as training for my friends right now, but I'll make it up to you, Shiro said as she raised her hand and snapped her finger. Suddenly, a shard of ice shot up into the sky and exploded into thousands of fragments, each expanding into a shield that formed a barrier around the perimeter. I've sealed things off. I'll let the 2 of you deal with the thing trying to control her body, Shiro called out as she jumped off Arnia's back and disappeared. From the shadows, 2 people appeared. Both Nine and Iris could feel fear facing the mutated being in front of them, but Shiro guaranteed their safety, as well as using this time to train themselves. Same strategy as usual? Nine asked as his hands trembled slightly. Amen. Nodding her head, Iris summoned her cards once more and drew 3 of them before applying the buffs to Nine. Taking a deep breath, Nine threw his swords into the air and dashed towards Arnia. Jumping up into the sky, he clasped his hands together and a formation appeared around him. Seeing this, the thing within Arnia snarled as tentacles shot out in an attempt to pierce Nine through the chest. However, the swords around him started to glow. Bang. Redirecting the tentacle away from him, he twisted his body and grabbed one of the swords, unsheathing the blade. Nine bit his finger and etched some runes onto the surface. Boom. Shooting the rest of his swords towards Arnia, he switched places and slashed towards her arm that was mutated. With what Shiro had said, as long as he only targets the mutated parts, it should be fine. She mentioned that there was a disconnect between her body and the mutated spots for now. As long as I hit the mutated spots, the girl wouldn't be hurt. Nine thought to himself while Iris was buffing his body. Watching in the distance, Shiro raised an eyebrow as she realized what their strategy was. Currently, her buffs are automated. She set up her spell circle to cast reactively to what changes are happening to Nine, while her main focus is on a purification spell. She already recognizes that whatever is happening to Arnia needs to be purified so that it will separate from her. Shiro muttered as she decided to give her a little help to gather the needed mana, since she doubted the thing inside Arnia would let her activate the spell. She had experience fighting it after all. Waving her finger, a tier 7 magic circle appeared around Iris and started to gather mana for her. Pausing in surprise, Iris accepted the help as the sky started to change. Looking up at the sky that was changing, the thing in control of Arnia's body growled as mana started to erupt from his body. Letting out a roar, the mana transformed into a barrier that forced Nine away, allowing Arnia to clear a path towards Iris. Not on my watch, Nine shouted as he threw away his sword and punched towards the ground. Bang. Shattering the ground around him, blades erupted out from the cracks and pierced into the mutated portion of Arnia's body. Pushing out with his spare hand, Nine narrowed his eyes and activated a tier 5 magic circle. All of the blades around him started to vibrate as illusionary shackles appeared around Arnia's body. Surprisingly, despite being a tier 5 spell, Arnia found herself unable to advance. Summoning all of the mana in her body, she tried to charge out, but was halted in place. Watching all of this, Shiro couldn't help but laugh since the thing controlling Arnia was not as experienced as the original. If it was then, he would have realized that had he exploded his power, at once the chains would snap. Instead, he chose to slowly increase his body and allowed the chains to turn that power against him. TSK. What a waste of power. Though it's about time that this ended. Shiro chuckled as she activated her skill and looked past the illusion that Iris had created. Above them, a giant array was being formed, one that was not at all inferior to the one she had created back when she was using Wrath of Stars. Even though it was just tier 5, it radiated the power of tier 6 as this formation was created from a myriad of tier 5 magic arrays that was further enhanced by Shiro's help. Despite the aura this formation radiated, Shiro could tell that it was focusing everything on helping Arnia rather than harming her. It was an array purely created from spells that would be helpful for Arnia. Analyzing the array, Shiro could simulate roughly the effects of the spell within her mind. Even though all the spells here were helpful, anyone that was normal would die the moment they got hit by this spell. This was mostly due to the fact that it would instantly force them to overdraft their vitality, not unlike what she did to the dragon when they first met. Seems like she got quite the inspiration from my spell, Shiro mused while increasing her own understanding of healing spells. Even though she was stronger than Iris and had better spells in the healing department, she was nowhere near being a master. Gaining inspiration from all sources would help her out greatly, since she understood that healing was a branch of creation. Some understanding of healing may even help her improve her control over error and source codes. 9. Iris shouted out as she clasped her hands together. Her aura flared as the bandages around her eyes threatened to fall off, but managed to stay on. Hearing her shout, 9 understood that she was ready and quickly jumped out of the way while making sure that Arnia was still locked in place. Sensing that 9 managed to get out of the range, Iris smiled and activated a tier 5 magic circle around her. Boom. Before Arnia could even react, a pillar of light shot down from the skies and dispelled the illusion that she had set. Seeing the array of star charts and spell circles, the person controlling Arnia instantly recognized what she was trying to do and wanted to hold on to Arnia's body. However, the purification from the array, while weak in offensive power, tore open his grip on Arnia's body. No! Letting out a cry, the mutated section was forcefully separated from Arnia. Seeing that Arnia was free, Nine quickly dashed forward and dragged her away from the mutated mass, while Iris finished the rest of her spell. A cage of light appeared around the mutated mass as sizzling sounds could be heard from its body. Yura, bang, shattering the cage. An incomplete crest could be seen faintly shimmering on the mutant's body. Seeing this, Shiro immediately appeared before him with a small smile. I figured I couldn't kill you fully, though it seems like you don't have memories. Only the knowledge I'm the one who killed your main body. An incomplete god trying to take over Arnia, Shiro said as she narrowed her eyes. Backing away slowly, the fragment of Raven could feel his body tremble from fear. As a fragment of a god that had been planted into Arnia and cultivated with a mix of her power, he couldn't be truly called a fragment, but rather a separate entity with high similarities with the host. However, there was still a small connection. And the day that connection faded, he knew that the original had died. With that knowledge in mind, he could tell that the spells and restrictions he put within Arnia had started to fade, so he took this chance to weaken her spirit, while also empowering himself with anything he could get his hands on. Everything was going well, and he was making his way towards the next feast, then a pair of eyes locked onto him. The instant it did, he felt an instinctive fear and knew that whoever just locked onto him was the same one who killed the original. Since he was a fragment, there was no way for him to escape her notice, but he had to try. He couldn't die again, as the fragment that was detached from the god. He should have been able to cultivate Arnia into a demigod, then eventually become a god. This was not where he would D-dash. Boom. Waving her hand with boredom, Shiro erased the mass of flesh in front of her and stomped down with her foot. Black mist erupted around her as she pulled out a lantern. Enjoy whatever is left of his shard, I suppose. It should be pretty enjoyable for you, Shiro said as an annoyed grunt could be heard from within the lantern. Are you kidding me? I'm risking my ass to fight Rokarn for you. Used my immortal body for you, which perished. Who King knew that was possible? And after how many months you finally remember me and want me to help you eat whatever the hell this thing is? Hell nah, the ancient terror shouted out as Shiro scratched her cheek. Fine. Sorry, I know you're still injured, but would you believe me if I said I was too busy? Shiro apologized. Fine, just give it here. I need it to recover anyways. Do you know how annoying it is to still be hurt after all this time, Che? The bloody TV you gave me stopped working too, so it's just been King boring in here. The ancient terror complained as Shiro shrugged helplessly, allowing a wisp of energy to grab whatever remained of Raven's fragment. Shiro was about to send the lantern away when the ancient terror called out once more. If you're thinking about sending me back, then at least hear me out. I have a small proposition for you. The ancient terror said with a rare moment of seriousness. You know who I was before I became this, right? He asked as Shiro nodded. Somewhat. Nyx gave me some details. Well, let's just say that when I was fighting Rokarn, him borrowing your divinity has completely destroyed the sins and corruption within my flesh along with some of the corruption that was latched onto my soul. His destruction cleansed me in a way and wanted me to return to Null, but I was able to escape before that and recover some of who I was before. And while I may never be able to enter a body unless it was immortal, I have an idea. It's something that will benefit you and make up for the lack of destruction you have right now, I suppose. He said as Shiro raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. Will you fuse me with your sword? Your sword is developing a sentient spirit already, but it cannot handle the power that you hold. The moment it matures, it'll be broken by your power. My soul is unique. It's already been tempered by the sins and corruption of a whole world. If you fuse me with your sword, I won't perish, and I would even be able to help it increase its strength. The ancient terror offered as Shiro furrowed her brows. What's in it for you? Nothing much if I'm being honest, but it's better than staying in this lantern all day long. Plus, that sword is a gateway for me to obtain a body that can actually withstand my corruption. Eventually, I should be able to transform that sword into a body for myself. Of course, that doesn't mean I become independent. I'll still be at your command like I am now. If I had to use your terms, it'll be like me moving into a better house. Nothing has changed except for me getting better living conditions and being able to obtain a physical body again. He shrugged as Shiro thought about it for a moment. It's a big request. You're wanting to experiment with my main weapon and something that is incredibly rare. An indestructible blade, one of its kind. However, I do owe you quite a bit. Shiro smiled. I do owe you quite a bit. Shiro smiled. However, it'll have to wait till later since we're not exactly in the best place to experiment with you fusing with my weapon. She added, that's fine. I just wanted to see what your response was. The ancient terror nodded before making his way back to the lantern. Watching his soul bounce up and down slightly, Shiro could imagine that he was rather happy with her response. Chuckling to herself, she shook her head and walked towards Nine, Iris and Arnia, who was injured on the ground. Iris was currently healing her, but Shiro could see traces of fear in Arnia's eyes towards her. Keeping some distance between the two of them, Shiro opened her mouth. "How are you feeling?" she asked, scanning Arnia's body to see if there were any more traces of the raven. "You spoke of my big sister. Do you know where she is?" Arnia asked as she tried to sit up, but was not able to. Seeing that her first concern was about her big sister, Shiro chuckled. "I do know where she is. As for her current situation, it's complicated," Shiro said as she made a chair for herself to sit on. "First, tell me what you know so far so I can fill in the blanks for you," Shiro offered as Arnia bit her lip and nodded her head. Listening carefully, Shiro realized that everything Arnia did as the Chimera Empress was not of her own choice. Everything she did was under the persona that the Raven had created for her to optimize the false authority he bestowed upon her. The fake Empress. Hearing the fear in her voice, Shiro felt pity for the girl who was forced to commit mass murders under the control of the Raven. "Is there anything else you need to know?" Arnia asked nervously as she wanted information about her big sister. "No, that's everything. Let's see." Filling in the gaps of Arnia's knowledge, Shiro decided to leave out the parts of her massacre. She figured that Arnia probably knew parts of it, but I'll keep the knowledge to herself for now. As for Niphim, Shiro told her about what Niphim did for her and their battle against the Raven. Meanwhile, somewhere in the realm of gods, an altar started to stir. Dark energy started to flicker from the altar as it morphed into a being with long black hair and blood-red eyes. I didn't think I would be stirred awake," he muttered while looking around him. Seeing 3 people kneeling in front of his altar, he narrowed his eyes. "I permit you to speak. Tell me who you are and what has happened." "My lord, it is I who have awakened you. However, had it not been for a certain situation, I would not have been able to accomplish this. The firstborn has awoken," he reported as the man on the altar paused. "Oh, well, isn't that something?" the man muttered as he sat up properly. "You said that they had recently awoken, right? That means they haven't recovered from the war yet. I suppose you've woken me up to deal with them?" The man narrowed his eyes. After all, he had sworn an oath, one that he couldn't breach. Should anyone wake him up due to a firstborn's awakening, he had to deal with it. "Yes, all of the gods have reached a truce right now. They're waking up the others, and it is our job to wake you up, my lord." The man nodded. "Well, all right. It's my oath after all. Which of the firstborn has woken up?" he asked while waving his hands. The shadows around him shook for a moment before transforming into a set of clothes for him. "The firstborn of destruction." Hearing this, the man on the altar immediately froze as his face became pale. "Destruction? You're telling me Anima woke up?" he shouted out in a panic as the man flinched and nodded his head. Biting his fingernails, the man gritted his teeth. "Wake everyone up, no matter who. Be careful that they're not fallen. If they are, they'll listen to her command. Tell the gods to focus on helping us recover our power, if we're not at full power. This realm is doomed," he shouted out as the 3 gods were surprised at the man's panic. While they knew of the firstborn of destruction's power, they didn't know that it was to the extent that someone like him would be this afraid. "Stop staring and start moving," the man shouted out in anger as his aura flared outwards. Hearing this, the 3 gods immediately left the area to wake up the others. Sitting down on this altar, the man clicked his tongue and closed his eyes. He could still remember watching her from afar during the First War. The terror that he felt back then was still prevalent to this day. ####. Dark clouds loomed overhead as he watched the army charge towards her. His role was small. It was to deal with the fallen gods that stormed towards them. He was too weak to deal with the firstborn of destruction. While there were many firstborns, the first 2 had the most power: creation and destruction. All the other firstborns, while having the same title, were noticeably weaker. After all, their powers are a branch of either creation or destruction. He was too weak, so he could only view the fight from afar. However, her every word, every action had already etched themselves upon his soul. He could never forget, even if he wanted to. Her long white hair contrasted against the darkness around her, the piercing red eyes that tore a hole through your soul, and the power of corruption that radiated off her, which caused one to lose their mind if they weren't prepared. To think so many ants would gather to deal with me. I suppose it should be an honor as the firstborn of destruction. However, no matter how many inferior beings gather, do you honestly think you can survive against me? Ha ha ha. Unless you are my sister, the firstborn of creation, all of you shall fall today." Anima laughed as she twisted her body and drew a magic array with her finger. Suddenly, the skies were replaced by magic circles of an unknown tier. Monstrous amounts of energy gathered towards her location to the point that some of the weaker gods had their energy stolen from them. Seeing this, the other firstborns tried to stop her. Waves upon waves of spells and binding spells were thrown, but all she needed to do was activate a single spell to counter it all. Third gate of destruction, Argia, asterisk, boom. 3 layers of black magic circles appeared behind her as the surrounding area was immediately dyed black by the powers of corruption. Every spell that entered this area was reduced back to its basic form of energy and absorbed into her body. With the sudden influx of power, her spell was complete, and all of them were transported into her realm. With all of them in her realm, Anima clasped her hands together. Fourth gate of destruction, Celes. A wave of dark energy gathered around her before exploding out. The wave of destructive energy extinguished anything and everything it touched. Watching the firstborn gather, the man could remember the thought it had at that moment. "I'm dead." Even with all of these powerful beings that could probably kill him in one go, he didn't feel safe. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Opening his eyes, the man shook his head. "She's not at her full power. If we can kill her before that, we should be fine. The problem is her spells. How many gates of destruction can she use?" He thought with a frown. Sighing heavily, he looked at his own title. She was right to call them inferior creatures. Even those with the firstborn title couldn't fight her, much less someone like him. Nile LVL 1000 High Primordial God of Shadows, Divinity Rank 4. The resurrection of Anima means the death of all living creatures. While the firstborn are hard to wake up, it should be possible to gather the high primordials. The world of gods have long forgotten our existence. Only those revered as the firstborn are remembered from the terror and awe they brought. Perhaps it's time to re-establish the age of high primals and firstborns once we reseal Anima, he muttered while attempting to teleport away from his altar. However, the moment he did, the system barrier appeared around him and prevented him from leaving. What? I had guessed that since Anima woke up it was already time for us to make a reappearance. If it is not yet time, then she can use this moment to recover her lost power, Nile muttered before sitting down in frustration. As much as he hated it, he couldn't do much about the restrictions around the world and the system. He had to obey. Such valuable time wasted. So what if the current world may crumble at my presence? If it means Anima is dead, then so be it. He complained before focusing his strength, waking up fully. The 3 gods had only woken up a part of him. He needed his full strength to even have a change to take on a weakened Anima. Sitting around the table, the 5 primordial gods were silent. After the notification that the firstborn of destruction has woken up, all of the fighting had stopped as they decided to sign a temporary truce and focus their efforts in trying to locate who it was. However, they knew that Shiro was the firstborn, which puts them in a rather awkward situation. While they had never seen what Shiro was capable of when she was the firstborn, they knew that she was strong enough for almost every pantheon to team up against her. Nyx, the other pantheons have started to move. The Nordic ones, while not having anyone stronger than Divinity Rank 3, have already began setting their foundation on Earth, while the major pantheons are waking up the old ones, Gaia said as she had a stack of books by her side. She had continuously searched for information regarding Shiro during her time as the firstborn in order to figure a way around everything so that they wouldn't try to kill Shiro. But so far, every bit of information she had found spoke of untold horrors when facing her. Even gods with Divinity Rank 4 had to run away with everything they have to even consider the thought of fleeing with their life. To make matters worse, I heard a few concerning rumors. The old pantheons have already began preparing rituals to wake up their firstborn. According to what I heard, most of the old pantheons were created by the firstborn as subordinates. Their original goal was to wake up the firstborn, and I believe this just gave them an excuse to gather resources in the open. We can't even say anything about it since everyone knows that we need the power of the firstborns, Tartarus said as he leaned on the table. Though due to the nature of our myths, we don't have anyone stronger than the 5 of us here. While we may have been dominating due to how much faith has been placed in our myths, our power will most likely be reduced in the upcoming age. We don't have a single divinity rank, for never mind a rank 5. Uranus scratched his head. Hearing this, all of the gods became silent as this was the truth. As it stands, Any pantheon that doesn't have a rank 4 god will be eliminated. Listening to their discussion, Nyx was silent. She was trying to think of a way to turn things around for them and Shiro, but things seemed bleak. If Shiro was to regain her power, the realm would be in danger. This wasn't something they could change either, since they have already seen the impact she had while being placed in stasis. The moment she awakens properly, war would break out. It would be them against every known pantheon. As much as she believes in Shiro, she knows that they would become fodder in the fight. Even if Shiro won, she'll be a lone victor, and her victory means the end of the world. But if she lost, the world will also end. With the system around, they couldn't transfer the knowledge either, so everyone was eager to kill the firstborn without knowing the consequences. If they kill, they lose. If they don't kill, they lose. TSK, what a shit situation. Nyx thought to herself when Gaia suddenly stood up in surprise. Is there something wrong? Nyx asked as Gaia swallowed her saliva and opened her mouth nervously. There are still some domains around that used to belong to the firstborn. They're usually missing and drifting through the rifts and hard to catch even for gods. But there are a few passageways that lead you to the door of the domain. Let's just say that Shiro's domain as the firstborn is almost untouched, since none of the firstborns could even enter it. When she was defeated, her aura lingered around, and the cost of defeating Shiro left many of the firstborn injured, so no one dealt with her domain. After all these years, it seems like the gods have forgotten about it or dismissed it as destroyed like the others, but it's still mostly intact. While I may call it a domain, it's more accurate to call it a prison just for her. If we go there, we might reap massive benefits. It speaks of gods receiving a fruit in order to get a boost in power, but those that consumed more lose themselves. If we are to go and obtain a fruit, one of us might reach rank 4. Gaia explained while placing the book in the center of the room for everyone to see. Do you know what kind of mission you just suggested to us? Kronos raised an eyebrow as Gaia nodded her head. I know, but we all know we need to reach rank 4. How else would we even stand a chance to fend off the gods from reaching Shiro, if they ever know? Gaia shrugged as they immediately understood that Gaia never worried about how she should resolve the situation, but rather placed her trust in Shiro and resolved herself to protect Shiro until a solution is found by her. Plus, Shiro was already trying to cultivate a creation divinity, so what they need to do now was to buy time, and the best way is to reach tier 4. The gods already fear them now. Once they reach tier 4, things should become easier for them. For the time being anyways, since there's no doubt that a battle between firstborns will break out in the future. Becoming a firstborn is a privilege reserved for those at the beginning of everything. Gods like them had no role in becoming one. Well, with that silence, I'm guessing everyone is on board with making our way to her old domain. Does it show where it is? Tartarus asked as Gaia nodded her head. Yeah, it's past the edge of our universe. If we are to go, we'll be leaving our allies completely open. Though with what's going on, I doubt a fight will break out anytime soon. Gaia shrugged. What about Mio then? I know she's training with Hades right now to see if she can reach rank 2 divinity, but I'm still worried. Nyx asked as Gaia glanced at Tartarus. I've already set up some protective measures around her. Plus, both Argus and Helios volunteered to help when they realized that she's Shiro's mother. Tartarus said as Nyx nodded her head. That's good then. Oh, before I forget, Hephaestus sent us a little prototype he created after watching some of the fight between Rokarn and Shiro. Kronos said as he opened a separate space and pulled out a spear. Sun Piercer Spear. Helios. Prototype. Unable to fully replicate the Sunbreaker, the Sun Piercer ignores all defenses and implodes the might of a sun within the body of those who are struck by this spear. Created by Hephaestus and the help of Helios, anyone can wield the power of the sun god in their hands. You are able to ignite this weapon for it to replicate part of the power shown by the Sunbreaker spear. However, in doing so, this weapon will be destroyed after one attack. He's planning to mass-produce this for us, since his successor is part of Shiro's party. Plus, according to him, watching how Shiro fights has inspired him to make better masterpieces. Kronos chuckled as he decided not to share the second artifact that Hephaestus had created after seeing what she did before. Forge God's Rear Plate, Divine Artifact. After witnessing what a certain snow girl could do in her younger years, the god of blacksmithing feared the devastation she could cause with her power now and created this armor out of panic. Gaining inspiration from his successors as plate design, he was able to upgrade the armor to the rank of Divine Artifact. While it does not have sentience, it will do everything in its power to block a powerful strike targeted at the rear. Should it face an attack that overcomes its defense, It will self-detonate by teleporting both it and the attack away in order to keep the wearer's rear safe. Who the hell targets the ass during a fight? Hephaestus, god of blacksmithing. Looking at the piece of armor that looked like a holy paladin's shield, Kronos wasn't sure of what to say. Occasionally, one could see radiant energy flickering off the surface. I don't think we need this for now, unless her identity as the firstborn had the same habit. Thinking about the power of an attack targeting the rear thrown by the firstborn of destruction, Kronos felt inclined to wear this armor for himself.